Okay, thank you for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and I'll be introducing the other individuals who are with me today. Recently, New York Magazine had a photograph on their cover of more than 30 women who had come forward publicly to accuse Bill Cosby of having victimized them. That cover also featured an empty chair, right here, which in the opinion of many people represented all of the accusers who have not yet come forward. Today, that empty chair is filled by 3 new women who allege that they were victimized by Mr. Cosby. These women have now found the courage to come forward to tell what they allege is their truth about what Mr. Cosby did to them. LIinda Ridgeway Whitedeer was an actor who appeared in a feature film, The Mechanic, which was released in 1972. She also appeared in many commercials for well-known brands. Colleen Hughes was a flight attendant for American Airlines. Tirl was an actor who appeared on The Cosby Show. These, and many others as well. These new accusers are coming forward now either because they want to support other alleged victims or because they feel that they could no longer hold the secret within them anymore, or because of what they perceive as unfair attacks on many accusers and attempts to blame victims by Monique Presley, one of Mr. Cosby's army of attorneys. Ms. Presley has recently been hired by Mr. Cosby and has taken to the airwaves in what I believe is a pathetic attempt to defend Mr. Cosby against the accusations of more than 40 women. For example, Ms. Presley recently stated in an interview with Huffington Post Live, quoted in the Washington Post, quote, "I don't think that 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, people get to decide to come forward," end quote. Ms. Presley, that is absolutely false. To the contrary, individuals who allege that they were victimized by being drugged, sexually assaulted, or raped can come forward and speak out at any time. There is no statute of limitations on the right of free speech. A person who alleges that she or he is a victim can speak out at any time. Many victims do not speak out at the time that they are victimized because they fear that they will not be believed, or they may mistakenly blame themselves for what happened to them, and or they fear attacks by the rich, famous, and or powerful predator who preyed upon them and who may unleash his supporters to attack them, as has been done to some accusers who dared to make allegations against Mr. Cosby. However, many alleged victims have overcome their fear because they want Mr. Cosby to be held accountable, and they now realize that their silence is only helping Mr. Cosby and hurting the persons who are the real victims. Enough is enough. I have a message for Ms. Presley. Instead of trying to change the subject from the specific allegations against Mr. Cosby to vague generalizations and truisms about the criminal justice system, I challenge you to debate me, since I now represent more than 21 of them. It is easy to spew ridiculous arguments in defense of Mr. Cosby when you are with one reporter and able to filibuster and give non-responsive, Cosby-like answers, which sometimes evade and avoid answering the question asked. In a debate with me, you will not be able to get away with that approach. I challenge you to find the courage to stand on the same stage with me and debate these issues. Stand up like a woman and do it. And please do not give some ridiculous excuse as to why you cannot accept my challenge. I will debate any issues, and the only exception will be the case in which I represent my client Judy Huth against Mr. Cosby, since that case is currently being litigated, and Mr. Cosby's lawyers and I can argue that case in a court of law. Ms. Presley, I look forward to hearing your response to my challenge. Okay. And now, I'll wait for a moment until everybody's ready. Excuse, okay. Can we finish passing those afterwards, please? So we may continue. All right? Ready? Thank you. All right, if there's somebody speaking, if he could please step outside of the room. Thank you. All right, LIinda. Okay.
A very long time ago, circa 1971, I divorced Fred Apollo, a vice president and department head of live TV for the William Morris Agency. He was one of the power brokers who worked 24/7 to enhance the career of Bill Cosby and many other comedians, singers. Standing in his office that last time to inform him that I was going to become an actress, he said, "Hey kid, do me a favor. Don't do anything that will embarrass me." Then my William Morris agent, Jimmy Hyde, he rushed into Fred's office and took, I don't have the photograph.
I have them.
Okay. He took this Eric Weston photo out of its frame on the desk and said, "Fred, I need to borrow this picture of LIinda. I'll bring it back." And he went running out of my ex-husband's office. I don't know how many weeks and months had passed when I found myself on a movie set being ushered along an outside walkway by Bill Cosby. "I'm going to interview you and we will do it in the director's office," he said. He explained to me and he opened the office door. Immediately, I noticed an empty chair facing the door jamb. It was so out of place one would have to move it just to enter. In a loud, commanding voice, he said, "Have a seat," making a grand gesture with his right arm. My instinct was to roll the chair over to the desk where it belonged, but Cosby seemed to be in a hurry all of a sudden. So I plopped down and proceeded to remove my purse strap from my left shoulder, and I adjusted my purse in my lap, and then I clutched the handle of my portfolio and grasped the arms of the swivel chair, and I was just going to, swirl the chair to the right and just, use my feet to walk the chair over to where it belonged. I never got to move the chair. Could you read that?
Yes. LIinda alleges that the following happened. She says, "I felt Cosby's left hand gently grab my long hair behind my head. His giant frame blocked the door, so if anyone should try to enter, they would not be able to see what he was doing. As I looked up, his penis was out of his pants, and he shoved it into my mouth. His attack was fast, with surgical precision, and surprise was on his side." I'm gonna read this.
I couldn't breathe. I was in shock. I thought of the boy possibly outside the door. When Cosby was done, there was a horrible mess of semen all over my face, my clothes, and in my hair. He took out a Kleenex to try and wipe off my face. I was bordering between vomiting and passing out. He was mumbling that I had been blessed with his semen as if it was holy water. He gloated over my humiliation. He planned it. Even to this day, I am still ashamed that I went into shock. I wish I had tried to kick him, but I felt like my heart had stopped. I couldn't catch my breath. Cosby had to help me to my car. As he slammed my door shut, I glimpsed my face in the rearview mirror. My cheeks were streaked with tears and mascara. My lipstick was smudged. I just wasn't the same girl that left home that morning. Feeling like a small animal that had been hit by a car, I gripped the steering wheel to keep from shaking as I turned and looked him straight in the eye. Cosby's eyes bolted in fear. He sort of hunched over and scurried away, passing in front of my car. I sat there for the longest time arguing with myself. What was my next move? I wanted to head straight to the William Morris office so I could confide in somebody. But I heard a voice say, "But you promised, remember, not to do anything to embarrass Fred." And then I thought, well, at the very least, somebody has to tell his wife. If I were married to a man that had no qualms about exposing his genitals to a total stranger on a job interview, I'd want to know about it. And then I heard the same voice say, well, if Camille is pregnant again, you could really upset her. And I just want to say here, she was foremost on my mind. Then it just seemed like a spiritual presence was trying to quiet me. He has a sickness, you know. Why don't you just try and get the Mercedes all the way back to Malibu in one piece? Try to get home to my baby daughter. Just try and drive home. In closing, an actress is like a tennis player. Her integrity and her confidence are everything. For me, Bill Cosby was a career killer. As undignified as this is, it is my turn to take the empty chair that I saw on the cover of New York Magazine, because I was assaulted sitting in a chair on a job interview and I was not drugged. I just want to thank the other victims for exhibiting unprecedented bravery, and my niece for her cheerful advice, and my daughter Lisa, who was with me here today, shielding me with her love, and to Gloria Allred, who has taken on this battle. Their energy reminds me of the flower that breaks through concrete. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I know that was hard. Thank you. Your time, it's okay. Okay. Now, Colleen, so
Let me just start.
rather than have you, it's hard.
That's okay, I
You know what,
can-
can we all shift down that
Sure.
way? And that way, we can just move to Colleen's chair.
We'll move the chair
Thank
with our
you.
feet.
So she won't have to get up. And then I won't.
He's okay.
All right, so you know what? I'm going to move you closer to the mic. In fact, what I'm going to do is move myself out. And now the dog has to come.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think that this is going to do it. I think that's okay. All right?
Okay, this will be okay.
All right.
Okay. Hello, my name is Colleen Hughes. I lived in New York City in the early 70s for about 5 years. I was in my 20s then, and I worked for American Airlines as a stewardess. It was on a flight heading to Los Angeles that I met Bill Cosby. He flirted with me the entire flight and told me not to eat the terrible food on the airplane. He said he would take me to a nice lunch in Beverly Hills when we got to Los Angeles. I agreed to go, but only with another stewardess. It was agreed that the other stewardess and I would stop by the Miramar Hotel, now called the Fairmont in Santa Monica, for a quick shower and a change of clothes before we left. Bill had a car and driver for us, but the other stewardess never showed up in baggage claim. When we arrived at the hotel, Bill walked me to my room and said that he would watch TV while I got ready to go. When I came out of the bathroom, I was fully dressed and ready to go. Bill had ordered a bottle of champagne and some hot and cold hors d'oeuvres. He was drinking champagne out of my Gucci pump. I said, "You don't do that. That's gross. I just walked 3,000 miles in that shoe." He raised the shoe toward me, offering the drink in my shoe to me, and said a princess should always drink champagne out of a glass slipper. Well, I did not take the shoe, but there were 2 glasses of champagne on the table that had already been poured and handed one to me. He watched the news and he tried to hold my hand. I told him, "Try and keep it light, just lunch, remember?" That is the last thing that I remember until I woke up about 5:15 in the afternoon. I was shocked. I didn't know how I had lost so much time. My boyfriend, who later became my fiancé and husband, was supposed to pick me up at 6 o'clock. My clothes were thrown all over the room, and I felt semen on the small of my back and all over me. It was disgusting. Bill obviously did not use a condom, and there was no lunch, and Bill was nowhere to be seen. I was confused and ashamed and never told anyone about what happened to me. After about a year, I saw Bill again on another flight, and he started flirting with me again in the aisle. It was obvious to me that he did not remember me, and then he used the same line about how I was a fine Irish lass. I told him to go sit his butt down on his assigned seat and keep that thing in his pants this time. I told him, "You already had me once, and I don't want to ever be drugged by you again." Bill turned pale and said, "Did you report that to anyone?" And I said, "Not yet, no. You are Bill Cosby. Who would believe me? But if you touch any one of this crew, I'll get you. I'll report you." I have never told anyone in my story in the last 40 years until I called Miss Allred's office. I have had to live my whole life with this terrible secret about Bill Cosby and what he did to me. It has been difficult for all of us, especially me. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe what we'll do is.
Want me to
maybe
move
could you
over?
move the dog? Yeah.
Okay,
Could you
I'll
move
go
over,
borrow you.
and then maybe you two
Where'd
change.
he go? Oh, he's
You know
way
what?
over here.
You
That's
sit
okay.
up there.
Come
I'm
on,
gonna have
Oscar.
Eden sit in the middle.
Okay, come on, Oscar.
What's the
Oscar,
name
over
of the
here.
dog?
No, he's okay.
What's the name of the dog?
Oscar.
So this is Oscar, everybody.
This is Oscar. Oscar de la Rascal.
All right, you can sit here.
Okay, thank you,
Oh,
Laura.
and I'll introduce you.
Wait, oh, okay, very good.
All right, so.
Okay.
Do you want to sit there? Okay, just wait a second. I'll introduce you. Wait a second, please. All right, so.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Is this your one?
This is my water, yeah, this
Okay.
one's mine.
So, to introduce Eden. Eden is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts after high school. And soon after graduation, she found herself modeling in Milan. She worked here in the United States and abroad as a model and actor for 20-plus years. Today, she's a full-time writer and English teacher here in Los Angeles. And by the way, we do have photos of everyone, and we will show you those when we finish. Okay.
Good afternoon. I've told this story so many times to close confidants that I was a child when Fat Albert premiered in 1972, and in high school when The Cosby Show aired in 1984. I grew up in front of my grandmother's television watching Mr. Cosby on Johnny Carson. He was the Jell-O pudding pop man and the first black man on television to do just about everything. His most significant gift to my teenage self was a new and much-needed perspective on the black experience. I had grown up in a predominantly white neighborhood but was of mixed race, and had no mirrors on television that I related to until A Different World and The Cosby Show were introduced. For my generation, Dr. Huxtable was the father everyone wanted, black or white. I met Bill Cosby briefly after a taping of The Cosby Show in 1989. I had just moved to New York City after spending the winter modeling in Europe. My agent knew of my desire to be an actor, was friends with Mr. Cosby, and invited me to a taping of the show. The following morning, I had an audition for Ghost Dad. After meeting me the night before, Bill thought I would be perfect to play one of his children. An array of shades of blackness were cast on Cosby to play his children, which I loved and appreciated, but I am very, very light-skinned. Being cast as one of his children seemed a stretch. By the end of the day, I had not landed the role in the film, rather been given a part on The Cosby Show. I would be playing a cop. I was 22, 6 feet tall, and modeling full-time. It seemed odd to be cast as a dress blues cop, but an opportunity to work on the #1 television show in the country seemed fantastic to me. My agent shared that Bill would be calling my home that night. I was angry with her for giving out my personal information. I also realized that the reputation that I had heard about Bill may be true. The phone rang, and on the other end, a cultural icon. I had been around some bit of celebrity at this point in my career, but this was Bill Cosby. In the late 80s, in television, he was a titan. He was warm and familiar with me instantly. He chatted casually, knowing quite a bit about me, knew that I was from Minnesota, and inquired whether I wanted to go to a basketball game that evening with him. I thanked him for the offer and got very animated about my boyfriend. I wanted him to know that I was thoroughly involved. I was very clear. But none of my tone or my repeated efforts to keep the focus on the show itself or the love of my boyfriend made much of a difference. Bill continued to pursue. He pushed to know how much I wanted to be an actress. Did I know that I could have anything I wanted? Did I know how beautiful I was? And did I understand who he was, most importantly? The conversation ended right about there. He said there would be a car sent for me Monday to take me to rehearsal. Arriving on Monday, I discovered that I also had my own private dressing room. It was the show's 5th season, rehearsing Monday through Wednesday and shooting 2 shows on Thursday. Standing on the Cosby stage for the first time was surreal. I was thrilled. Soon into the first day, a man appeared on set. Without consulting anyone, he came over to me, told me that Bill would like to have lunch with me in his dressing room. I told him I couldn't leave rehearsal and lunch wasn't for another half hour. He said it was fine and to come with him. I looked around the set filled with throngs of professionals looking for some sort of confirmation that this was okay. Nothing. Under any and all circumstances on a film or television set, there are departments that oversee the time and movement of everything, as I'm sure you all know. None of these departments even looked in my direction nor said anything to me. In front of hundreds of people, I was led off the set to Bill's dressing room. I was self-conscious and humiliated. With my stomach in knots, I sat on the sofa in his dressing room, worrying about missing a rehearsal on the first day. I waited for Bill to show up. He never did. Summoned again on Tuesday, I sat alone again, no Bill. After, I went to the head of the department that should have been overseeing me directly. I told her that I didn't want to leave rehearsal before everyone else anymore, that I needed to be there. She point blank told me not to worry about it, that this happened all the time. She was also dismissive to me, which gave me the impression that perhaps she thought I may be a willing participant. I drove home to her that I was not participating in whatever this was, and could she please help me? She told me again not to worry about it and did absolutely nothing. I was summoned again Wednesday, no Cosby. This began to feel silly and unprofessional. I felt manipulated. Young actresses being yanked off set for lunch with the media titan, and no one is concerned or willing to help. Then it was Thursday. We shot the afternoon episode, and I was once again promptly escorted into Bill's dressing room. This time Bill showed up, closed the door behind him, and locked it. There was a palpable shift of power, and I lost my breath. His chair sat directly inside and in front of the closed door. There was movement and noise outside, which gave me no comfort. This felt dangerous, and I was scared. He began chatting in the fatherly, mentoring way that he does, asking me again about my boyfriend, inquiring if we planned on marrying. He wanted me to know that he thought I had it, the big it needed in television. I could have anything I wanted, but was I willing to do what it took? I kept it light and professional. I told him I was going to work hard and finish studying. He responded to that with a titter, like I was being naive, all the while my knees shook behind the coffee table. After 25 minutes of interviewing me, he said something to me that let me know he was done bantering. I had one last deterrent up my sleeve. Bill, you are Jell-O pudding pops and fat... It's just I've told this story a couple times. I can say it. Bill, you are Jell-O pudding pops and Fat Albert to me. You are my childhood. He barked back instantly, don't say that. They all say that. The mood in the room turned. I wanted out. I knew I had to walk a line, though. I had handled being hit on many times in the industry, but this had far surpassed that. I felt dominated. He then said, come here. Everything now seemed to slow down, and I had to decide swiftly what I would do. I stood up. Bill came toward me. When we were face to face, he asked me to turn around. How was I maintaining my decorum, I asked myself. I will be in a completely powerless position if I turn around. I wanted to smack him. My mind raced and concluded I could knee him. I'm 6 feet tall. I could elbow him, run out if he tried to touch me. So I turned around. I felt him step toward me and put his hands over the backs of my hands. He began to move our hands together like an exercise many actors know as the mirror exercise. I played along and made sure that his lower body stayed away from my bottom. When he was finished with this, he then pulled me into him, wrapped both our arms around me like lovers would, and whispered in my ear, see, this is all that we were going to do. Make love. This is making love. He turned me around, hugged me, and I left without saying a word. Driving home that night, I knew I had handled the situation with courage and grace, yet I didn't like the feeling of not knowing what other cast and crew members thought of me. I didn't like not knowing how far a reach Bill had in the industry. Would my rejection of his advances mar my career in some way? I never came forward in 1989. I knew that I had been sexually harassed. I knew that I should say something. Yet I had tried to get help while working on the show. If I got no help there, it felt hopeless to get it outside the show. Bill Cosby was untouchable. We all saw the response last fall when the first courageous women began coming forward. It was shocking and disgusting to watch the news coverage, the outrageous, ugly comments towards these women, portraying them out to be money hungry. Bill Cosby still being held up as Dr. Huxtable. Today, I encourage my students to speak up if they are being harassed or abused in any way. If someone doesn't listen the first time, you keep on talking until someone will. It took 39 women to come forward before I was ready to share my experience. I hope that by being added as the next number, someone else decides to regain her power and use her voice. Abuse, harassment, and rape of women and children are commonplace all over the world. I know we can all agree that we need to do everything we can to stop this. I don't think it would be prudent to give someone a pass because of unrelated contributions to our community, or that we may all collectively share good memories of their once popular television show. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Why don't you take my
Okay,
seat?
okay,
I will sit
okay,
there.
all right,
Okay.
very good. Excuse me. Oops.
Okay, now. All right. So, we have also some photographs which we have included, and then I'm going to take some questions. They will not take any questions, but I'll take some questions. So let me just show you the photographs that you have. This is, what's this?
Colleen?
This is Colleen. You were model too, right?
Yeah, the cover girl.
This is
Cover girl. She was the cover girl as well. And so we're giving you those. This was about the time
About the
that you
time.
met Mr. Cosby. Okay. All right, and thank you, and everyone will have a copy of that. And then, this is you, Eden, right? Then we have some photos of Eden. This was about the time that she was with Mr. Cosby. So, I'm gonna cover your page. You wanna hold on? Okay, good, thank you. Okay,
Gives a change.
it's all right. We all have. And then, Patty, do we have LIinda? Oh, may I have that, please? Thank you. And then we have LIinda, and this is a copy of how LIinda looked at the time.
Can she hold that, please?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just that one. Lower so your faces can be seen. Lower.
Could you get up for,
LIinda, lower.
could you get up for a second?
Yeah, all right, stand up with the picture. Thank you.
We were all young once.
We're still young.
Can you also get closer together?
Yeah, why don't we do that after? Okay, so let's, okay, thank you. You can sit down, and then we'll do the pictures after. Any other ones? So I'm happy to take any questions. They will not be taking any questions at this time, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Gloria, Dennis from Inside Edition.
Hi.
What is the status of deposing Mr. Cosby?
October 9th is the date that has been ordered by the court for Mr. Cosby to provide his deposition. And then our client's deposition would follow that.
What is your hope for that deposition?
Well, my hope for that deposition, and I think my reasonable expectation, is that we are going to ask questions and he should provide answers. And, you know, we're entitled to take it. We're entitled to ask any questions in the deposition that may lead to the discovery of any, that may tend to lead to any evidence that would be admissible at trial and that is relevant. So we have a great deal of latitude in the questions that we can inquire about. And we're looking forward to his answers, and we hope that we will be able to get answers. And we are entitled to answers, and, you know, we're hoping that it will be with a minimum of objections.
Where is that?
By his counsel,
Where
they're
is that
entitled
gonna
to.
be? In LA or in another city?
It's not going to be in this office, and I'm not prepared to say at this point where it's going to be, but it will not be here.
Are
You know,
allowed to ask questions in that lawsuit about, like, for example, these ladies or any of the other cases?
the question of whether we are permitted to ask about the allegations of other accusers is an important question. Of course, we would like to inquire about the allegations of other accusers to the extent that they are relevant to our lawsuit and to the extent that we believe that it could lead to evidence of pattern, practice, or motive of Mr. Cosby. And we'll have to wait and see if, as and when Mr. Cosby's attorneys have objections to those questions. And if they do, how that will be resolved by the court.
Speaking for Ms. Tirl, does it seem to you that the people on the Cosby Show were aware of what was going on?
Well, I think that everyone is going to need to be able to draw their own conclusions based on the number of women who have come forward and who've made allegations about what was going on during the production of The Cosby Show. Of course, previously, I have also done a news conference with my client, Lily Bernard, who played a principal role on one of the Cosby shows, playing Ms. Minifield. And she's made some serious allegations against Mr. Cosby. So I'll lead everyone to draw their own conclusions. Are there any other questions?
Ms. Allred, there have been so many women that have come forward, and I know that they're not answering questions, but after your clients come forward in this public way, I mean, do they feel some relief? I mean, why is it that they keep coming forward?
Well, Colleen is nodding her head yes, and we'll have to see when I talk with LIinda and Eden after. But I will say, as to the previous clients who have come forward, I mean, many of them were in fear because they've never spoken out publicly about anything, and certainly, in some cases, never even told certain members of their own family or their coworkers or other relatives or friends about what they allege Mr. Cosby did to them. So there's been, for many of them, a lot of fear in getting to the point of speaking out. However, after they have spoken out, I would say for almost all of them, I would actually say all, but just to be conservative, I'll say for almost all, although I can't think of an exception at this time, it has been a very empowering and to some extent healing experience to be able to speak out and to join the community of women who allege that they have been survivors. So it has been very empowering. All of the anger and the rage and the grief that they have felt and that they've turned inward has become like a malignant cancer eating away at them. And now to take that same feeling and turn it outward into something constructive, something positive, to help to win change, to help to win accountability, has been extremely important to all of these women.
Yeah, but what accountability have you accomplished? I know you have a deposition scheduled, but she hasn't even agreed to, as far as I know. So,
He hasn't agreed to?
I don't know.
Okay, well, the court's ordered it,
I
so,
know that.
you know, he actually has his attorneys, to be fair, which I like to be, have agreed to a date after the court ordered that there is going to be a deposition. They have agreed to a date with us, and they have indicated to me that he intends to appear for his deposition. So when you say, what have we accomplished? We've accomplished that we are proceeding with that lawsuit, that we have been successful in the California Supreme Court. Although they were trying to block it from moving forward, we've been successful in our opposition, which argued that his petition for review should be denied. And then, when it came back down and we noticed his deposition the day after we received notification from the California Supreme Court, and then they, after we noticed his, and then they sent a messenger to our office and noticed our clients and wanted to take our clients first, we were successful in being able to go to court and argue that no, he should have to give his deposition first, and we would like to have the date for that. And the court ordered, in agreement with us, that his deposition should be first. So we are proceeding. This is a battle. This is a process, and that is Ms. Huth's case. And there's a lot that you can't see and that I can't talk about that is going on behind the scenes in reference to Ms. Huth's case. But let's talk about the other women who have not filed a lawsuit, who may never file a lawsuit, who may be barred by the statute of limitations from even ever having him criminally prosecuted if it was within the time period and if the district attorney found that there was evidence that the district attorney believed could prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. They can speak out in the court of public opinion. That has had an impact on making Mr. Cosby accountable. NBC and others have decided they're no longer going to do projects with Mr. Cosby. Honors and awards have been stripped away from him. He's no longer on the board of trustees of Temple University. He's had, Spelman College is wanting to distance themselves from the endowment, which he provided to Spelman College. There are many other results, and I give credit to all of the women who have spoken out. In the court of public opinion has mattered significantly in this case to hold him accountable. And we are not finished yet. These are not the last three to come forward. I can assure you of that.
And thank you, ladies, for coming forward. I know it must have been difficult. Specifically for these three women, what is the next step? Is there a next step?
Well, after we conclude this press conference today, we'll discuss with them whether they would like to speak out further or not. It's going to be whatever they decide is appropriate for them in their own timetable, maybe never, maybe this is it, maybe there'll be more, I don't know. It is too late for them to take any form of legal action, but again, it is not too late for them to have their voice, to speak what they say is their truth, and to receive support from all of us who care about women, who care about people who allege that they are victims, who care about people who are survivors. I like to say that there's a three-step process. People begin as survivors, people begin as victims, then they become survivors, then they become fighters for change. So we're going to identify positive steps that they can take, whether it's testifying in legislatures to remove the statute of limitations, as we did in Nevada, as my client Liselott Lubin and I did in Nevada, and then it was signed into law, a better statute of limitations for criminal prosecution for rape and sexual assault survivors, or it may take some other form. So again, there are many more who have not yet come forward, some of whom may, some of whom may not. Some of whom may be called upon in lawsuits. We'll have to see. Okay, anything else? And
Yes, was even a client of Sue Charney, the marketing agent who
what,
sent a lot of
is it okay? I think you were, right? Is it okay to say?
Yes.
Yeah, she was, Sue Charney,
Does
right.
she know Jewel Allison?
Well, I mean, we're not gonna take any more questions, but thank you for that.